What do I want for you with all my heart? That you be fulfilled in your unique self, your way of life. Of course, I want it to be so in harmony with everyone else's, all other life, because I want the welfare of all. I don't mean I'm here to convert, although I do think I am here as a source, an opportunity of rescue. I mean, in a word, I want people to love each other and to live in the assurance that they are loved and cared for, that it's the reality, and to see how that transforms their life into being the fullness of their own uniqueness. I do mean their own values, but somehow in harmony, in loving kindness of those around them, not wishing to impose on any, but with a generous, kind heart, always ready to be a friend, always ready to come to the rescue should it be truly wanted. Not self-sacrificing, I don't mean that. I do mean, or at least I can't see from my narrow point of view, that blame could ever exist. Kindness is everything. It sounds childish, sounds fanciful. It is. It's a fervent love of enjoying, caring, and enjoying so much knowing that those around us are happy, are feeling fulfilled, are just loving life. That every morning when they wake up, they're so happy about the day ahead. I mean, very simply, the good friends they know, that they delight in the joy and the welfare of such. I call that life blessedness, and I want so much that they be in joy, fulfilled. Simply that. It's the utopia from my point of view, and I wonder that it surely can be everyone's utopia. What else would satisfy? I haven't mentioned God, have I? That surprises me, because I'm obsessed with the notion of trusting in God and my dearest friend, a God that personifies, of course, what I value. And others have values that don't necessarily include God. I mean, I didn't up to the age of 24. I was a humanist, an ardent humanist. I felt that I cared for people. I so didn't want poverty and unhappiness and loneliness to exist. With all my heart. So I wanted a way ahead for mankind. But it included all life. I didn't like to think of fish suffering when I went fishing. I didn't like to think of the tiny insects that I had killed. I didn't like to think of any creature injured or hurt and alone, not cared for and rescued. My being, my soul, longed for a utopia, of course, as I saw it. And I couldn't see it clearly, but I felt it, ever felt it. I mean, in simple terms, as a young person, I just wanted the world to be a happy place. Of course, without the obvious ills like hunger and war and killing and imposing on life. The way we kept animals, their desperately limited life compared to perhaps some fanciful view of what living free could and should be. So I read Plato, and he searched for his idea of an ideal society. But what was ideal really was the conversations he wrote of that searched for understanding, wisdom and reason, and hoped for a utopia in this way. I, from this, envisaged what a university might be in terms of a place of seeking understanding and mastery of life. I longed to rescue Mum from her marriage that dominated our lives. I didn't know our way of life was a rescue, or that it had the possibility of being a rescue for others on an infinite scale. But my idealized hopes reached out to a utopia, certainly for the whole world. It's as if I longed for God without knowing it. In the search for reason, I threw out all fiction, all make-believe. I wanted to know the truth, reality. But at the same time, I was insistent in character on that reality being wonderful, being a blessing, and certainly to all. I, of course, didn't want enemies. In the simple early way, that meant, of course, wiping out all enemies, including Dad. I can remember praying most earnestly that God kill him, that he have an accident, he gets killed in the car. I saw him as the absolute enemy, not as the one that made my childhood possible, both in terms of finance and security and provision for Mum to be who she could be for me. The relationship was incredibly close. We were unquestionably each other's reason for living. She didn't want to be a mum, she wanted to be my best friend. And I knew she was, and I hers. I didn't live up to it, because I was young and inexperienced and didn't have some of the wisdom that was necessary for acceptance of faults when you find such. And I think I mean by that actually not just tolerating other people's faults, but as one sees it, but knowing of an surety that they are the present necessary part of their being. And from that sense, to be both accepted and helped to be harmonized with the individuality of others. To come to realize that, well, I can only put it in the religious context that we're children in the same vast family. And to be utterly loved and cherished for the very uniqueness that causes much concern to each other, with a hope and a trust that it can nonetheless be all right, and we can still truly love and care for each other, not by changing each other, but by knowing in our hearts that that's what we all want. Aware that we're not able to reach out and make it so, but very aware that this is our true desire. And I find living in my own belief world I can live it as a reality. Don't know how to put it, but I run with not Christianity, not any religion actually, although I'm superficially schooled in several, especially Christianity, Hinduism and Buddhism. But it's not my religion. I might seem to be a member of something like that, but in my heart, I feel I could only love my God, whom I've come to caricature as the personification of what I see as my values. And believe in my heart that that's all anyone could truly love. And that devotion to such God, in the Jesus story sense of being some sort of perfect parent, in the terms of that character, heavenly dad, but could see it too as divine mother or dearest friend. And I reflect much on the possibility of the best of all of these views, as I see it, of course. I can't bear to think of others, any others, creature or human being, any form of life, as being unhappy. I just long for some solution to such. And I actually think that my fanciful way that hit me from about the age of, from 24 years of age onwards, that I'm going to, because I found I wanted God to exist, the personification of what I truly value. Nothing else would do. I actually wanted that. This was strange. I'd never wanted God to exist before. I mean, I had tremendous longings, both selfish and selfless. But I realized that in some sense, my God must personify the hopes I had, whether they were consistent or not, rational or not. That's what I could live for, and I couldn't live for earnestly anything else. I couldn't see that it would bring my happiness. The essence of the Jesus story, as I understood it, and apparently Christianity didn't, was and is that God is to be lived for and loved and put first. And you could only put first a God that personified what you hoped to be the case. Not what someone else worshipped, of course, because they had different values. And yet there was an incredible belief in my heart that there was an incredible sameness about life. It feared death, it wanted life, hopefully, ideally, and those that didn't were a tragic case that you wanted to rescue. That life all had in common a fear of pain and isolation and being at risk, and yes, all needed some level of material well-being, of course. Oh, it'd be terrible to be hungry, to be in want, to be at risk, to be imposed upon, to be in fear of. I agreed much more recently when I came across Marshall Rosenberg, nonviolent communication. One of his foundation views, I don't know, as I don't run with all of anything that other people have. I don't idolize some guru or teacher or pastor, or I only idolize my view of God. And that's very much my view. Personification of what I value. And want others to be as free to do that as possible. But I must admit, within my view of what's good and a blessing, lest their freedom actually brings unhappiness to others. In a sense, I'm still a humanist, and it was considered to be an oxymoron to be a God-believing humanist. But self-contradiction or not, that's what I am. And it's brought me overwhelming joy. Gosh, I've got to go and take my daughter to school. Hang on a minute or two. Thank you, Dan.